okay, let's say I'm an SEO, or I work at I'm in a company and I want to improve my SEO. Like, how can vector embeddings be attainable to me? Like, how can I make it? How is it? Like,
They're
is
pretty
it possible?
accessible to. Yeah, I'm sorry. Say that again.
Oh, is it even accessible to the average human being? Essentially,
Right. Right. That's a great question. It takes a little bit of work, but it's pretty accessible. Screaming Frog, crawling software that much of the SEO community knows and loves, even if we're using some other more enterprisey level crawling and analysis tool, we probably also have a Screaming Frog license. And because we can do these short runs of crawling a page, I use it constantly. I'm not even a generalist SEO. I'm squarely in the link building space, but I use it often to help me understand pages, even if it's just from the perspective of, is this page indexable? Is there a canonical? Is there a 301? That sort of thing. And so Screaming Frog they have a free version. You just can't save anything. But they also have it's a very light license. I can't remember what it is, $200 US or something like that. It's very accessible, not very expensive. There are also a number of free tools that will allow for vector embeddings to be understood. There are some Excel plugins that I know of. NotebookLM, I'm pretty sure there's a publicly available template for it in there. And the process is relatively simple. You crawl your pages with Screaming Frog. You add some custom code to Screaming Frog, which actually may even be built in now. It might even be native to the application. You just have to check a box or something like that. That's how you get the vectors. That's how you vectorize the content on a page. And then the NotebookLM or this 3D graphing tool, which I think is a plugin to NotebookLM, that's how we look at our content in that three-dimensional space. That's how we do the actual embedding. So first we have to get the vectors assigned. We have to get those actual values. Then we look at it in 3D graphing software in order to see how close it is. We plug in the query that we want to rank for or want visibility around, and then we can see how close we are to it, essentially. And so it's really as an exercise to understand how modern visibility is gained, what we need to do in order to increase our visibility. It's an exercise well spent. You might want to find a contractor or a trusted consultant that can do it for you instead of, so nobody in the C-suite should be spending their time actually embedding vectors of their content. But it is a very useful exercise. It's a very, very interesting visual, what you get out of the exercise, and it's not really very expensive at all. I mean, the time and the software, it really is accessible and can be done in relatively short order, at least as an example of modeling out how content is looked at, today versus what we thought about it back in, as I mentioned, term frequency divided into inverse document frequency, TF-IDF, or keyword stuffing, and it's just counting up the number of times you mention a particular phrase on a page. Those are long in the past, but even TF-IDF was an early version of vector embedding. We just didn't think about it. The term vector embedding wasn't well known at that point, and so we had the TF-IDF example to use as a proxy. But that was vector embedding. Is vector embedding, and it's more sophisticated now, and it's worth the exercise to see what that looks like.
And again, we come back to the inside out, in my opinion. I feel like all of this is, looking more inwards, looking at how things correlate internally, because I can imagine if you do an exercise in your vector embeddings, you can then also predict how your next content is going to position itself inside of the rest of your content, right? So now your presentation, your classification, how you create a strategy kind of gets, it's not completely different, but you have a different metric that you can utilize to, decide where you go, specifically in this day and age where everything is so uncertain. We all feel so insecure about these things that it's not bad to have something that's calculated and mathematical that you can fall back on to kind of steer the ship a little bit. I don't think it's a bad idea. I love it.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's an exercise that will, I think, open eyes internally, especially if an SEO is having trouble getting traction. getting budget approved, if they're worried about their budget going away, sort of thing, a weekend, or a week, small percentage of a week, for an individual contributor could result easily in being able to show some version of a vector embedding to help the higher ups better understand visually how content is becoming more and more important, how we have to stop parking our content, or the real meaningful content, the deeper dive in content on a blog post somewhere that is not even in the main nav. Okay, might be a link in the footer. Might it not even be there? We need to get that content on our sales landing pages. The AI models generally not going to crawl your entire site to build its prompt response. You maybe get one page. If it's not on that page, and we want that page to be available to the AI model as that user continues that chat conversation and gets closer and closer to the bottom of the funnel, where they're in that customer journey, they're going to make a decision about whether they're going to purchase a product or service or not. We want that valuable information on that sales landing page, not just parked somewhere off the site that may not even get discovered in the course of that, that chat conversation sort of thing. So we really got to get more buy-in internally if we want to be able to raise our visibility in AI models and continue to keep our jobs. Essentially, we really got to think about the hard work that we should be doing. You mentioned earlier, we were talking earlier about exploring AI, and I would say one thing that I've been really appreciative of at Citation Labs, and I've been really involved in this decision, is everybody has a little bit of time in their workload dedicated to exploring how AI could help them do a better job. And that means experimentation. And I would say that your challenge to you, Sean, is try some other models besides ChatGPT, because there are differences between them, really substantial differences. I know I'm going to throw a zinger at you, and I don't mean to call you out, but it happens to me too. I get really comfortable with one particular model, and there are pretty key differences with them. So I try to remind myself to get into a different one. Take that same prompt response. This is really interesting from an AI visibility perspective too, is this has really shifted compared to traditional Google search results. If I search for the same query in Google and I skip AI overviews and I just scroll down to the 10 blue links, the result, the order of the result, and the actual, the brands, the pages even that are in that result are relatively consistent. They change from day to day. They might change partway through the day. But if I just hit refresh a few times, or if I open an incognito search, they're going to be relatively the same. But something that we've learned when comparing traditional AI results, Google AI overviews, ChatGPT prompt responses, Perplexity, throw that in there, Claude, is there's maybe at best 30% overlap between 2 or 3 different models in terms of actual citations in that prompt response. That's a paradigm shift for sure. And so this is a way that we can discover more about how a brand, how a particular product or offering is being represented in AI prompt responses, is using different platforms, because there's a high variability to those responses from one platform to the next. Even if I just refresh or run the same query in the same platform, there might be a big difference kind of thing. So we really need to be looking at our responses at scale. And that means on an individual level, using different platforms to research how my particular offering is showing up in those responses, those results.